good. So, anyway, I will turn the time over to Brad. So, thank you, Brad.
Great. Thank you. How y'all doing?
Yay!
Oh, good. Well, thank you. You're so kind to invite me to blabber on today. I love listening to myself talk. So, this is really kind of you. Today is a purely personal interest story. And Colette's making me do this, and gosh, she didn't have to twist real hard, but it's pure personal interest. There's no politics, there's no history, there's no church doctrine, there's no end of the world timelines, there's no cryptocurrency, there's no sacred night, there's none of that. It's just a personal interest story. And it's entitled The Herald Trumpets and the Tabernacle Choir. You're going to find out I'm a trumpet player, and I'm involved with the Herald Trumpets of the Tabernacle Choir. So this is the story of that. Herald Trumpets, Tabernacle Choir, okay. Before 2017, here's the Tabernacle Choir. Nice choir, good organization. They're doing a pretty good job and all that kind of stuff. And then, after December 2017, the world changed. It completely shifted because what did they do? The Tabernacle Choir added 8 Herald Trumpets playing with them at their Christmas. How many of you heard the Christmas concerts with the Herald Trumpets? Hey, fun stuff, isn't it? So that for us is when life started, was December 2017. And so this is the story of how Herald Trumpets came to be playing with the Tabernacle Choir. Now, in telling this story, I've got, and forgive me, I've got to include a few relevant elements from my own life story because they actually play into this whole thing. So here I am as a little kid. I grew up in a very musical family, and my dad had 6 sons, and he grabbed 4 of us one time and said, let's start singing barbershop. So we sang barbershop, and I'm the little squeaky tenor on the end. And then I started playing trumpet in 6th grade and all this stuff. So I grew up in a very musical family. Here's our family portrait at that point in time. My mom, Melva Omer, was a lifelong pianist and organist. She's one of those, I didn't appreciate it as a kid. I thought all moms do this. She could just sit down at the piano, the organ, just sit and play from memory, improvise with music, and what key do you want it in, and da-da-da, and all this kind. She'd accompany soloists, she'd play for the choir. She was just a phenomenal pianist and organist, just incredible. My dad, Wayne Omer, was the ward choir director. He loved it. He carried the spirit of Evan Stevens and Spencer Cornwall. And me, I was the 5th of 7 children. And I literally grew up under the piano at ward choir rehearsal. When I was 2 and 3 years old, before I could sing, there's mom on the piano, dad leading, and there's Brad flailing underneath the piano. So it was just osmosis. It was just this wonderful music family. And now this is me when I'm about 24, 25. But I've been a trumpet player since 6th grade. See, this is what my wife married. This is why she married me. I used to be good looking. and then look what happened. But this is when I played for a few years in the Mormon Youth Symphony. Don't know if any of you have memory of that. Whoa! In symphony or the chorus?
In symphony.
What'd you play?
Violin.
Sweet!
Yeah,
What years?
I was 78 to 81.
I was just before you. I was, you were after me, but yeah, I was a little earlier years than that. Well, wonderful. Glad to hear that.
Bob's still alive, I think.
Bob Bellamy, yeah, I haven't seen him for a few years. He's got to be 90-something by now.
Very good.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've been playing trumpet since I was 6th grade. Now, and the other relevant thing is, I was blessed with 9 years in the Tabernacle Choir, 2000, 2009. Now, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. They were wonderful years. I absolutely loved them. And I have enough, I had pictures to prove I was actually there. And my kids, brother in my ward walked up one Sunday, Brother Omer, the choir, yeah, we look for you all the time. He says, in fact, on general conference weekends when we do conference bingo with our little kids, you're the middle space. I said, I've never been so honored in my life as to be the middle space on conference bingo. So anyway, these all play into the story, so forgive the personal references. Now, here's what happened in 2005, 20 years ago. I'm a trumpet player. I had this little itch I wanted to scratch. I organized a trumpet ensemble, and I named it Gabriel. We had 8 trumpet players, an organist, keyboard, and percussion. And I said, I just want to create this incredible trumpet sound that I can't find anywhere else. And so there we go. And so I called a bunch of my old friends, and we organized this group called Gabriel. We still exist, we still play today. When we play with the Tabernacle Choir, we play as the Gabriel Trumpet Ensemble. So I started that 20 years ago, and for many years we just played all over the place. We played in the Tabernacle, the Assembly Hall, First Presbyterian Church, Float Preview, and various church things, Festival of Trees. We just played all over the place, having just a ton of fun as Gabriel. And then in 2017, something extremely interesting happened that completely changed the trajectory of our group. And it happened at the Utah State Prison. Oh, really? How'd that happen? Because that's an unlikely place, right? But what happened is one of our trumpet players, a good friend of mine, Mark Chamberlain, he and his wife served as service missionaries out of the prison. So he was out there every Wednesday night, whatever, did that for years. They went out to the prison, and lo and behold, at one point, they had a music program for the men out there at the prison. And they came to a point they needed some more help. And somebody had the nerve to call the Tabernacle Choir office. Hey, does anybody up there want to come and help us? Well, lo and behold, of all people, Mac Wilberg said, yeah, I will. So with everything else he had going on in his life, at that point in time, he's the director of the Tabernacle Choir, busy man. He said, I'll come out once a month and help the music program in the prison. You don't hear that when they talk about Mac Wilberg, but that's the kind of man he is. So fate had brought together my friend Mark and Mac Wilberg at the state prison. They didn't know each other, but what happened is they had a lot of common friends. Many of our trumpet players were in the orchestra at Temple Square, and these are people that Mac would have known. And having been in the choir, Mac knew who I was, and da-da-da. So what happened is Mark Chamberlain went to Mac and said, hey, Brother Wilberg, you don't know me, but I think we have some common friends. Oh, really, who's that? And he started naming these names of trumpet players that Mac knew. Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah. And he said, how do you know all these people? And he said, oh, we play together in this trumpet group called Gabriel, and our director, Brad, you probably know, oh yeah, I remember Brad. Well, so Mark thought that's all it was going to be. He was just going to say, hi, we have some common friends, and that would be the end of it, right? No. What we didn't know is that Mac Wilberg, in the previous year or two, had been to a couple concerts where he had heard the use of Herald Trumpets. Well, that's unusual. Herald trumpets are not used very much, and when they are, they're kind of spectacular. He had heard a concert in London that used them. He was in Washington when the U.S. Army Herald Trumpet Corps played. And Mac Wilberg is always looking for new ideas and thoughts of, oh, Christmas concert, wouldn't that be fun to use some Herald trumpets in our Christmas concert with the Tab Choir? He just had no idea how to make that happen. So before I move the story on, let me talk just a minute about Herald trumpets, okay? And here's where my little demonstration phase comes in. So here's a regular trumpet, good old, nobody here has played trumpet, right? This is just a good old regular B-flat trumpet. Okay, this is what everybody plays, right? So forth. So just a regular good old B-flat trumpet, right? Well, this, my friends, is a Herald trumpet.
Oh, Angel Herald.
So, I'm gonna hold that up for a second.
Okay.
And let's just compare them to come and turn this way, and just compare them. So you can see they're essentially the same kind of horn. What's the main difference? Yeah. They just make a Herald trumpet such that bell just sticks out, great, thank you, quite a bit longer. And otherwise, it's a B-flat trumpet. It's just a regular trumpet. So it's just a regular trumpet, but it's been reconfigured to look really cool. And how do you spell when you say Herald Trumpet? How do you spell the word herald?
Herald.
Herald. And what does that? Heart the herald. So what does that mean? What does heralding mean?
A herald, like the angel,
Call?
is one that blurts out, that speaks out and say, this is good news. A heralder in the olden days, they had a heralder that would run
Right.
and
You're
call
announcing.
things. Yeah.
You're calling attention. And hence, herald trumpets, through all of history, big long trumpets have been used to get attention. That's what they're there for. They're loud, they're cool looking, and all that kind of stuff. And they also have one other really cool thing they can do. Here, thank you, and I'll ask for help over here now. Do you want to help me?
Yeah.
Okay, find the two little clasps on the other end. And the herald trumpet has two little loops here, two little metal loops, onto which
Oh, you can hang it.
So
I've
you
spent
could go to
7
Walmart
years.
and get those little garden
I
flags.
spent 7 years trying to figure out how to hook these little loops on. Thank you. That's not easy. That's not an easy task. Thank you. But isn't that fun now? So with herald trumpets, it's very common to hang banners on them. And so we have them made with these little loops. We have banners made, and now doesn't sound any better. But man, does it look good.
Yeah.
And so the right? So this is what Mac Wilberg had seen at these concerts, was these herald trumpets are in uniforms, banners, and da-da-da, and he was like, wouldn't that be cool to do with the tab choir, right? And so that's kind of the end of the demonstration for now. If we have time at the end and there's some little bit of money around, then we can. Anyway, so the herald trumpets, as we demonstrated, one is the same trumpet, just a little bit longer. And the banners, we talked about this. This is the U.S. Army Herald Trumpet Choir. And it just looks cool, right? And it's fantastic. And so Mac and Mark were talking, and Mac said, "Oh, I've got this idea about you. You're part of a herald. You're part of a trumpet group, and I know many of them. And I've been thinking about herald trumpets with the Tabernacle Choir. Do you think you guys could help me?" And Mark's like, "Heck yeah." I don't think those were his words, but he's like, "Oh gosh, yes. Of course, we'd be very interested. It may be worthwhile for you to contact our leader, Brad Omer." He knew who I was. He said, "Yeah, I'll reach out to Brad." So Mark called me and said, "Brad, you won't believe what just happened. Expect a phone call." I was like, "Ah!" And sure enough, within about a week, Mac Wilberg called me and said, "Hey, Brad." And he explained it all. I said, "Can you help me for Christmas?" This is about in June. This is in June. And I said, "Oh, man, yes, of course. We would absolutely love to." And it was funny, in courtesy, he said, "Why don't you talk to your group and see if it's okay?" And I said, "Mac, I don't have to talk to my group. I know it's okay. We will provide." And initially he was talking about 10 trumpets. We finally settled on 8. Let's get 8 herald trumpets. So all of a sudden, in the middle of 2017, I commissioned with the idea of finding 8 players and 8 herald trumpets and accompany the tab choir at their Christmas concert that year. Now, at that time, we had no idea this would be a continuing thing. I had full expectation this is going to be a one and done situation. We'll do it once, isn't that fun? And then we'll be done, right? And he gave no indication of anything other than that. In fact, he even told me, "Brad, this is a little bit of an experiment. I just kind of want to see what's going to happen." I said, "Great, let's find out." So that year was all my preparations. Herald trumpets, I had committed to finding 8 herald trumpets. The players were easy. I knew enough trumpet players. That wasn't a problem. But finding Herald Trumpets, nobody has Herald Trumpets just laying around. The music stores don't. The manufacturers don't. These are special order instruments. And I was just at my wit's end. I had trumpet player friends, one here, two there, a couple of Heralds laying around, but I thought, where am I going to find? And then I remembered, oh, the Army. Well, the U.S. Army in Washington has them. I wonder if our local Army band. Oh, yeah. So I knew some guys from the 23rd Army Band here locally. Called them up and I said, hey, is there any chance you've got some Herald Trumpets in your inventory? Miraculously, they did. It said, yeah. Well, it just so happens we have 6. And I said, can I come and look at them? Yeah. So I went and looked at them, played them. Gorgeous instruments. They hadn't been touched in years and years and years. Nobody had played in a long time. But they were gorgeous instruments. Beautiful silver Herald Trumpets, beautiful instruments. Can I borrow them? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. So now I have 6, and then I had another friend who had 3, and I borrowed 2 from him. So now I had, miraculously, that's one of the little tender mercy miracles. There's about 23 miracles I've documented through this whole thing. And that was one of them, that I actually found 8 matching Herald Trumpets. It's extremely hard. Players were from my Gabriel group, and I said, called them up, said, here's what we're gonna do. And they're like, yeah. Music, Mac Wilberg said, I'll write you some music, and he did. He wrote very nice Herald Trumpet parts for us to play. We had rehearsals. And then, one thing, costumes. The Tabernacle Choir, of course, the choir has their own wardrobe people. And, the women have, 6, 7, 8 dresses. The men have 3 or 4 or 5 different suits. And the choir provides all of that. Well, in addition, when they have bell ringers and dancers and special they have this costume crew over here that prepares all these costumes every year individually for all the people involved. Incredible costume group. So they said, okay, we're going to make you some costumes for you Herald Trumpet players, for costumes and banners and this kind of stuff. Okay, so and they're custom fit. Every costume is custom fit to the player. And so we had to go in and get all the costumes made. By the way, let me say right up front before you ask me this later, I'm going to show you stuff of us on stage. You're not going to see me on stage. Oh, wait, why aren't you playing? Because I found out early on that, especially the conference center, this gigantic event, to try and both manage the group and to play in the group is just too much. It's just too much. I wouldn't be able to do both. And frankly, that was okay with me. And that's true of the bell ringers too. The guy who leads the bell ringers, he's not out on stage playing. He's backstage managing. I was backstage managing my group, and it all works out. Now, one funny thing in the program, though, it shows Gabriel Trumpet Ensemble Director Brad Omer, but I'm not on stage. Well, they're on stage, but their names aren't in the program. So my joke is they get the glory, I get the credit. It all works out. So, among other things, we got Herald Trumpets. We held our own rehearsals. That Mark Chamberlain fellow I told you about out of the prison, he has this massive wood shop, and that became our rehearsal space. We just went to his wood shop. And Mac Wilberg came out and rehearsed with us, practiced, and said, okay, it sounded good, fabulous, good job, guys. So we just made sure we were ready. We had to memorize the music, and then came the big date. Here we are in 2017, and those costumes, I can't zoom up on it, sorry, you'll see a closer shot in a minute. Beautiful costumes, red coats, black hats, black masks, And again, it was. We were all living a dream. We thought, oh, this is incredible. We're just gonna do this once. It's amazing. And what they did that very first year, they treated us as special guest artists, and they said, hey, we want to do an interview. They always do interviews with their special guest artists to put on the DVD that's published later. And on the DVD, in the special features, you can find these interviews. We want to do an interview with your group. Okay, so we got to do this little interview, and this next, I'm going to play for you just a... Oh, here we go. That's plenty good.
I want to tell you how we even got involved with this, and it's a case of being in the right place at the right time.
Sorry, this is about 3 minutes long. Some of what he tells is redundant with what I already told you, but too bad. Here's the interview.
Utah State Prison.
This is the right place.
That was the right place. It happened to be. I've been serving out there as a volunteer for the past 8 years, and had a ball, and I've been in different assignments. Well, I kind of moved over to volunteering for the music school. There is a music school out there at the prison. The music director was working with the men's chorus, and he had the bright idea. He says, I'm going to call the Tabernacle Choir office and see if they can send somebody out to come out and help us, to kind of coach us a little bit and teach us. Well, he gets a call back from Mac Wilbur, who wants to come out and coach the choir. So I happened to be out there on Wednesday night, and Mac walks in, and I said, Brother Wilbur, I says, we have common friends. He and Julie went to BYU together, and so we got talking, and he said, well, how do you know Julie? And I said, well, we happen to be in a trumpet group called GABRIEL,
And he didn't mention, but about 3 or 4 of the other players were members of the orchestra at Temple Square. So Mac was also familiar with them, and blah, blah, blah.
And I said, you may know the director. Our director is Brad. And I know Brad because Brad sang in the choir. So he says, my wife and I saw some Herald Trumpets over in London, and I thought it was really cool. And he says, I want to get some Herald Trumpets for the Christmas program this year. And he looked at me and he says, do you think you'd be interested? And I said, yeah, I think you'd be interested. I didn't think anything was going to come of it, because a lot of times people say things, but Mac never forgets.
No,
I happen to
that.
If he says it, it happens.
Now
That's right.
we got to hear this from Soretta's point of view.
So Mac is still thinking about this idea, and thank you for mentioning my name. He used it to not humiliate, but I sure turned bright red. We were doing a rehearsal, and he had the thought, I got to ask Soretta about this trumpet thing. So he stops in the middle of the rehearsal and says, Soretta, I need to talk to you afterwards. And everyone looks up, ooh. And I'm like, I'm not in trouble. He's like, no, I promise you're not in trouble. But I met someone who knows you at the prison. I'm like, okay, that's better. Yeah. Anyway, so we chatted after the rehearsal about, where to get Herald Trumpets and how to make it all happen. So that was kind of fun.
To perform with the choir is the biggest rush in the world. And to perform in that big, beautiful hall was just amazing, and you just feel like you're on top of the world.
One thing I've really enjoyed this whole week is the gratitude that the choir shows.
Exactly.
The choir, they keep coming up and saying, we love you guys.
They've been
We
so
love having you
kind.
here. And I just, they're professional. They're great.
Well, they've been treating us like rock stars ever since we got here. And yet they're
We're
doing
the
their
ones that are
music.
honored to perform with them.
The first time you played in front of the choir, you finished playing and the choir just erupted. I was like, oh wow, okay, that's pretty cool.
That was the very first rehearsal that we had that you just saw that a little bit, with the choir there in the conference center. And earlier we had gone down there, just us and Mac Wilbur. Mac was like, okay, how's this going to work in here? And put you here, and here's my, so we did some testing of our own. But then that very first rehearsal with the choir present is what you just saw. We came out and he rehearsed a piece that at the very end of it, everybody cuts out except the trumpets. The trumpets sit and hold this big, glorious chord. And you saw what happened. He cut off, and the choir just went crazy. And I thought,
That's so cool.
okay,
That's cool.
we're happy.
Do you miss that you don't get to play with them? Are you sad, kind of?
What a great question. Thank you. Not really. I'm thrilled to be managing the group. Now, in smaller performances where it's not that big a deal, I will play. I've played my Herald Trumpet plenty of times with the group on other occasions, and you'll see a few of those slides. But these great big huge tab choir things, it's just too much. There's part of me, of course, that wishes I was out on that stage. But then there's the other part of me that's like, I'm happy. This is great, and I'm thrilled to put them out on the stage and just be backstage, just glowing. And with all the headaches, by the way. There's the managing of the group carries its own challenges. So it's a ton of fun. I love it. So here we are on stage. You see the beautiful banners they made for us, and here's again, we kept thinking we're going to be one and done here. So we took as many pictures as we could. Hey, Matt, come over and take a picture with us. Sure. And so by the end of that first year, 2017, Matt called along and said, this is kind of an experiment. Let's see how it goes. And he just kept being happier and happier and happier. And by the time we were done, he was like, that far exceeded my expectations. That was fantastic.
Oh, wow, that's hard to do.
It is.
That's very hard to do.
Mac is a wonderful, congenial, sweet, good man, but that kind of comment is rare. And so he did not say anything directly about the future, but I could feel a little hint. I could feel like, okay, he was happy once. Will he be happy a second time? Maybe. So he didn't ask me to. I just started doing my homework. I said, what if this got serious enough that I actually had to go out and buy some Herald Trumpets? Where would I go? And it turns out there's very, very few trumpet makers that make Herald Trumpets. Lo and behold, the U.S. Army Herald Trumpet Corps had bought their trumpets from this company called Canstill. And they're just in Los Angeles. They're right next to Disneyland. And I thought, oh, okay. And so I went and made a trip just for fun, just to go say, hey, can I look around to see what you got? And this is all just in case. And so I got a really good taste of the Canstill group, and I thought, okay, if for any reason I had to buy a bunch of Herald Trumpets, this is where I'd come. This is who I'd buy it from. Okay. You're gonna see that things didn't turn out that simple, but nevertheless. Well, lo and behold, the next year, 2018, he called me back up. 2018 said, Brad, that was really cool. Can we do it again? Sure. I'd returned all those Herald Trumpets I'd borrowed, so I had to call the people again. Can I borrow the Herald Trumpets again? Yeah, and so they let me borrow the Herald Trumpets. 2018, we got ready. Here we are in our costumes. Now, if you're really, really observant, you'll count the number of Herald Trumpet players and realize there's actually 9. Oh, really? Why is that? Because that very first year, when we were putting 8 Herald Trumpets on the stage, okay, during that Christmas week, we have a major rehearsal Tuesday, a dress rehearsal Wednesday, performance Thursday, performance Friday, a big taping session Saturday afternoon, a concert Saturday night, and music and spoken word Sunday morning. Every one of those is being taped. Every one of those is being filmed because they will pull bits and pieces from all of those tapings to put together the DVD. Well, when you're in a choir of 360 people and 1 or 2 people are missing, you don't notice. Even in the orchestra, okay, they can kind of cover. But when you put 8 Herald Trumpets on the front of the stage in bright red uniforms with Herald Trumpets and banners, and all of a sudden somebody's sick, somebody's stuck in traffic, somebody has an accident, and you're only putting 7 on the stage, it would be noticed. And so during that very first year, about halfway through that week, sure enough, and people, I'm not feeling very good, and the weather is horrible, like I started to panic. Well, tender mercy, we made it through that first year. But I thought, okay, that was my warning. Now that we're doing it again, I need to have an insurance player. I need to have an understudy. I need to have one extra person that if heaven forbid something happens to one of my players, I can have that extra person to pull in. So ever since then, I've always had 9 players. They're fully dressed. They're fully ready. Da-da-da-da. I found an extra horn and all that stuff. So I've got 9 players. And what we do, we've come to where we'll do a rotation. We make sure everybody gets some stage time. And we'll kind of rotate through and let people have stage time. But I have 9 players. So here we are, second year, 2018. We're all dressed up, ready to go. I'm going to play another little 3-minute clip. That year, the guest artist was Kristen Chenoweth. Do you know her?
Yeah, she's fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
It was a great concert.
It was a fantastic concert. And she's just this bubbly sprite, you know. She's just full of energy. She's only about 3'2". She's a little teeny thing, but she has a voice that just goes crazy. And a little story, if I may. So I referred to our Tuesday rehearsal, then Wednesday is our big dress rehearsal. That's when the guest artists finally join us. So here's Kristen Chenoweth on or was it the Tuesday? Anyway, whichever one it was. And we only played on 3 songs. And the ending one is Angels from the Realms of Glory. Da, 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 da. And
That's
she's
signature song.
Yeah, she's singing on it. We come in at the very end of it and do bam, and that's what I'll show you in this clip. But at the rehearsal, it was so funny because she was down at the front of the stage with Mac, facing into the audience area. She did not see us come on the stage behind her. And we got to that big moment where we started playing, and it so stunned her that she just quit singing. Everybody kept going. She just quit singing, turned around and looked at us. She just stared at us for the rest, like, where'd you come from? Anyway, I loved it because we were able to surprise Kristen Chenoweth. And she was very kind and very complimentary to us. Anyway,
And that didn't happen during rehearsal where you came in after? Like, that wasn't rehearsed?
Well,
That was the first
she
rehearsal.
didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
She was down on the front of the stage with her back to us. So we knew when we were coming in. She didn't know when we were coming in. And so now I'm about to show you a little 2-minute clip of the end of that song in performance. You'll kind of get the idea. So there she is down at the front of the stage. Again, this is performance. And in a second, you'll see the Herald Trumpets start to come on. That's our cue, and now we start coming onto the stage. And of course, by now she knows what's happening, of course. Isn't that spectacular?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't say that because of the trumpets, I say it because of Mac Wilberg. Mac Wilberg has this genius to bring these elements together and to just open up the heavens.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's piercing the heavens.
Yeah.
And to just be a part of that is just beyond words. I pinch myself every time we go do it because I just think, how's this happening? But there we go. So that was the second year, 2018. Now, it's becoming obvious that Mac is really happy with what's going on here. We're still using borrowed horns. And so after the resounding success of 2000, I talked to him and I said, Mac, I just have to be honest. If there's any thought at all of this carrying on into the future, we probably can't keep borrowing these horns forever. And he said, I understand. I agree. He says, let's get past the holidays and give me a call in January and let's have a little meeting. Do your homework. He didn't know I'd already been doing my homework. I said, yes, sir. So sure enough, early 2018, I go and meet with Mac and his business manager. And I explained to him the Herald Trumpets. I'd buy them from Castle. Here's what it would cost, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And we talked about it. And at the end of that discussion, he said, go do it. Go buy a set of 8 Herald Trumpets. Now, the agreement was the choir is paying for the trumpets. So the choir will own the Herald Trumpets. But when needed, they'll ask Gabriel to come in and play them. And in return, Gabriel can use them for our own purposes. That has been a great arrangement. We have indeed borrowed and used these Herald Trumpets many times just for our own purposes. And then when they need them played for their performances, they've got first dubs on us and we go play them for them. Now, and I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. How many trumpet players in the world are commissioned to go buy a set of 8 Herald Trumpets? Almost none. So all of a sudden I'm doing something that I never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be in this situation. What's a nice guy like me doing here? And so I'm commissioned to go buy 8 Herald Trumpets. Now, fate has its way of saying, we're still going to keep things interesting. Because I called that Castle place where I'd already been, and actually I went another time. I'd been there twice. I called Castle to place an order, and that week they had just gone out of business. And I was like, what are you talking about? Now, in hindsight, that was a tender mercy. Because if I had placed an order and they were in the middle of fulfilling it and gone out of business, that could have been disastrous.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, what do I do now? The problem is, there were no other companies in the United States that made Herald Trumpets. There was one in England, but that wasn't working. There's one in Japan. Okay, we could maybe do that if we had to. And that's kind of what I was ready to do. But then a friend of mine said, hey, Brad, I have a connection with this company called Shires. S.E. Shires. They're a company near Boston, and they make trumpets and trombones, brass instruments, and all this kind of stuff. He said, I've got a really good connection with them, and let's talk to them. And I said, do they make Herald Trumpets? And the answer was, no, they do not. But for an order of 8, they'd probably be willing to tool up and do it. You know, for 1 or 2, it's just not worth it. But if they're going to build 8 Herald Trumpets, yeah, that'd probably be worth it. But it would take 6 months to make this happen. Now, this is early in the year, and I'm thinking, okay, as long as we have them by November. So what we did is we engaged the Shires company and sent them to work, and I'll tell you more about that later. In the meantime, 2019, I had just ordered those trumpets. Max says, hey, Brad, get Gabriel and come in and play Easter with us. Sure. So all those 8 Herald Trumpets I borrowed and just returned.
Can we borrow them again?
Can I borrow them one more time? And everybody was very gracious. Yeah, sure. So we borrowed the horns one more time, 2019, went and played Easter. Now, this is in the Tabernacle. We played Easter with them, and that was tremendous fun, just great stuff. In the meantime, Shires is indeed back in Boston building our trumpets. They built a prototype model, they shipped it out to us, try this, see what you think. We played it, it's great. Shipped it back, said, yeah, do 8 of those. So they're working on it. In the meantime, Craig, you remember back in 2019, there was the big Transcontinental Railroad commemoration up at Promontory Point. What, 150 anniversary thing, whatever it was? Craig Jessup, who I had known from the choir and so forth, he was up at Utah State, and he was put in charge of all the music for that event. He said, Brad, I'm well aware of you and your Herald Trumpets. Come and play our railroad thing. And I said, sure. Can I borrow the horns just one more time? And so I borrowed the horns yet again. And this time just 6 of us, and we went and played at that big railroad commemoration in 2019.
Did you play on that one or not?
I did not. I was still again, it was one of those events where I was just running like crazy, just trying to figure out what was going on.
Do you borrow them or rent them?
Borrowed?
Borrowed, because the 23rd Army Band, they're either going to loan them or not. They can't rent them. because it's our taxpayer dollars are paying for their horns. And so they're either going to loan them out or not, but they're not going to rent them. So I didn't have to pay rent. And then the other horns from my friend, he was very kind. He just said, oh yeah, go use them. Oh, great. So I didn't have to pay rent for any of these horns we borrowed, which was wonderful. But after a year or two of borrowing horns, it was kind of like,
It's embarrassing.
I know.
How much does a horn like that cost?
Yeah, I was
So-
just gonna ask that.
That's a really great question. I'm going to answer it sideways. It costs. Well, I'm interested in what you think it might cost. Now, I can tell you more than you want to know. This is a professional level trumpet. And it turns out that if you look at an orchestra stage, violins, violas, cellos, woodwinds, brass, you look at that stage full of instruments, and the cheapest instrument on that stage is a trumpet. Violins, professional level Utah Symphony violins, 100,000 is your starting point. And your flutes are probably 50, 80,000. So double basses, don't even get me started. Double bass for just a bow can pay $2,000 or $3,000 just for a bow on a double bass. And so the strings, professional level strings are crazy expensive. Woodwinds are very expensive. Brass, not so much. And of all the brass instruments, the smallest and cheapest is a trumpet. So you can get a professional, you can walk right now into Summer Haze and buy a professional level trumpet for $3,000 to $4,000. Now, if that sounds like a lot, it's not. For a professional level instrument, that's actually one of the cheapest you can get. Now, a Herald trumpet is a little more complicated. And so for these, we were paying about $6,000 a piece. So you kind of go, well, that's a lot. Again, you have to put it in context, right? For the quality horn you're getting and everything else, the truth is, that's very reasonable. So a horn like that is about $6,000. Yeah.
How, if these items are $100,000 and you have the people that are, all the years of training and everything to do that, but how do they afford it? Does the orchestra own it?
Well, they've either saved their whole life or they have people helping them. This friend, that Mark Chamberlain friend I keep referring to, he has a daughter playing in the Utah Symphony. Her violin is a couple $100,000, and he helped he's fairly well off, and he helped to pay for most of it.
Wow.
And so they either save their money like crazy, they find a sponsor, somebody to help them, or things like that.
Wow.
Most of them have spent their whole life saving for their big instrument.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
My dad with 12 children got me a violin that costs like a car would cost 35 years ago.
Play this.
Right.
And it's like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You need to bring your violin in sometime.
Yeah, I'm playing for the Isaiah conference, November 8th.
Ooh.
It's a pre-recorded thing.
So,
So they made these in just a special order for you guys.
special order for
But now
us.
they have the way to do it, so if anybody else
They've
ever
got
came
all
to
the
them-
molds, they've got all the plans, they've got all the data they need. So if anybody called up and ordered another one, they'd know how to do it. And in fact, I'm going to get ahead of my story just a little bit. That was all happening in 2019, right? And in a second, you'll see we got our 8 trumpets. There they are. Boy, a little side. What time is it? I'm going over time.
It's only 10:30.
10:30,
You got
you
an
got an
hour.
hour.
Okay, I won't keep you late. So here's a fun little story though. Brass instruments, when they make brass instruments, the manufacturers love to do some kind of engraving on the bell. Usually it's just the name of their company, the model of the instrument, so they'll put a real nice little engraving on the bell and there it is. And that's very, very common. Well, the Shires company that we were buying from, they love the engravings. I have another trumpet from Shires, and it's just this big, florid, just this big, huge engraving. They just pride themselves on these big, beautiful engravings. So when we're ordering Herald trumpets with this great, that's like the Sistine Chapel to them, It's like, and they even told me that we can do anything, our computer controlled thing. We can make this so cool. And I studied and watched a lot of videos. I watched especially the U.S. Army Herald Trumpet Choir. I watched them a lot. And in their videos, their bells are just clean. They're just plain. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I said, they won't like it. That's too bad. It's my horn. And I said, I'm going to ask you not to put anything on the bells. Really? Yeah, I said, because up close, it looks really cool. But from a distance, it looks like smudges. And to be up on a stage with 8 big bells, lights glaring, da-da-da, those engravings would just look smudgy. And they were like, okay, fine. So they delivered me 8 horns with just a plain bell. And there we are. Now here's what happened. The next year, 2020, and I'm getting ahead of my story, I decided I want to own my own personal copy of this horn. The other 8 belong to the Tab Choir. I want my own. There's 4 or 5 different reasons why I wanted to do that. And my sweet wife, she's, when it comes to my trumpet addiction, she's an enabler. She's like, yeah, sure, of course that'd be great. And yes, I paid $6,000 for it. But for my own personal horn, I said, okay, I'm going to treat myself. I put a little teeny engraving of the Angel Moroni. Can you see that?
What's it say below?
Essie Shires. That's the name of their family. So, anyway, so I said, okay, for my own personal horn, I'm going to indulge and have them put so my daughter, who's a graphic designer, she helped me design just a very simple little, here, grab the horn. Be careful, pass it around. Anyway, so she helped me design just very, very simple. And it's small enough and discreet enough that from a distance you can't see it, But it's mine. And so, did everybody have a chance to see it?
So you had to come up with these rings on your own? They didn't put them on for you?
Oh, no. We asked for the rings. And that was the fun part about ordering these horns, is I got to make all the specifications. I got to say, hey, when you build my 8 horns, 8 trumpets, I need these little loop clasps. And the U.S. Army Herald uses those too. All Herald trumpets have these little loops. And I said, okay, I want a trigger on the first valve. I want the saddle on the third valve. I want a water key here and water key there. I need the lyre hook right here. And I got to specify everything about the horn. Say, this is exactly the kind of horn I want to have. Oh, okay. That's great. And they were very, very good. Steve, did you get to see my little Angel Moroni? Come on, I got to show Steve my
Here's our host.
Can you see that? So when I bought my own personal Herald trumpet, then I indulged in that little teeny engraving. And one reason it's nice to have, remember how I had 9 players? I had 8 plus a spare. Well, the choir had 8 trumpets. I have the 9th. And so I can bring it in, and we can have our 9th Herald trumpet just in case, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, back to 2018. 19, excuse me.
Do the trumpets have, they have like serial numbers to identify which one
Most
is which?
of them do. Most of them do. Do these? That's a really good question. Yes, they do. There's a serial number. Normally on the middle valve, they put a little serial number to, yes.
Identify which ones?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, right there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they have a little serial number to.
Well, you won't get them mixed up.
Right. So anyway, 2019, they're building my trumpets. So we're getting close to the end of the year. I need my trumpets, and they arrived. Our front room. We were in the middle of remodeling at the time, so our front room was a mess. But the trumpets did arrive late October 2019, just in time. And so for 2019, here's our array of 8 new Shires Herald trumpets that we're playing for the first time. And so we get together, and once again, if you count, there's 9 there. So those 8 plus mine. And so that was 2019. Yay! 2020, what happened? COVID. No Christmas concert 2020. So we come back in 21, and there we are. And I don't know if you noticed, every year they have new costumes for us.
That's nice.
And new banners. We have never yet repeated In these 6 years, whatever, we've never repeated a costume. They build brand new costumes for us every single year, and banners. And so 2021 ended up being another good year. 2022, Craig Jessup was in charge of the Freedom Festival down in the Marriott Center in Provo. And once again, he said, Brad, bring your heralds down here and let's do a thing together. Okay, so we did. So we played the Freedom Festival down in Provo that year. And also in 2022, have any of you ever gone to the Renaissance Fair? In the last couple of years, it's been down near Mona in the Young Living Farm area down there.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Horses.
Right. We got engaged in 2022. We had a connection to the Renaissance Fair, and we said, hey, we have Herald Trumpets. We're not afraid to use them. And they said, oh, that'd be just perfect.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, they had some little costumes for us. So ever since 2022, we've been playing every year at the Renaissance Fair. And I play in that one. I'm actively both managing and playing in that one. And that
Amazing I don't see a mask in there.
This is 2022.
Well,
And intelligent people have refused to wear masks.
yeah.
And so, yes, that is correct. We have no masks. Anyway, so 2022 and since, we have played at the Renaissance Fair. We did it just a month or two ago, and it was a ton of fun. Ton of fun. Also, here's we're backstage goofing around, obviously. But notice the new costumes.
what's this one?
What do you mean?
What performance?
Oh, Christmas.
Oh, this
Excuse
is
me.
Christmas.
This
Okay.
is Christmas.
Because it's purple. So I thought, oh.
Yeah, this is Christmas 2022. We're just backstage goofing around, and but notice the beautiful costumes they built. This is in the conference center backstage. Backstage, they had these gigantic hallways and all this kind of stuff. We were just back there having fun, hanging out. And so that was 2022. Then 2023, we got invited in. Finally, there's a picture with me playing. We got invited to play at a private dinner.
Oh, that's this tassel, the thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's a little story here. Everything has a story, right? When we started using the Herald Trumpets on our own, I was reaching over to the costume lady, her name is Sue Allred, and saying, Sue, may I borrow some of the banners? Okay. And she's like, oh yeah, sure. Da, 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 da. Well, I did that 2 or 3 times, and bless her heart, she finally gave me this set of banners, 8 of them, and I went to return them, and she said, oh, no, those are yours, just keep them. Oh. What? She said, yeah, you use them enough. And so she made this gorgeous set of banners for us that are GABRIELs. They're just for us to use. Bless her heart, she was so kind. And so we just have these available to use. And so we played at a private dinner, 2023.
I see you. Oh, sorry.
Pardon? A dinner. It was just a private dinner that was being held. I think up at the University of Utah. There was somebody up there, and they knew about it. So just 3 of us went up there, and they just wanted a few fanfares to.
I see you're wearing tuxes. Do you guys own tuxes, or do you rent them?
Yeah. If you play in the professional music world at all, you have a concert black tux in your closet.
Okay.
That's just standard equipment for. And so when we're not in a costume, we're wearing the formal black concert tuxedos. Yeah. Now, 2000, was that 23? Yeah, it was 23. 2023, we got invited to go back and again play Easter with the Tabernacle Choir in the Tabernacle. Again, ton of fun. Just a ton of fun. Now, 2023 Christmas. This is Christmas. We're kind of hard to see. We're on the front of that center stage, right in front of the choir. If you look close enough, you can see us there. Now, this was kind of a special year. Where are we? We're in 25 right now, right? Yeah. So this is 2 years ago. Another story. So through the years, I knew Mac Wilberg, Craig Jessup, but I also knew Rick Elliott. I had become well acquainted with Rick Elliott, the organist, right? Through all these years. So he and I knew each other. Well, every year at Christmas, Rick, for 20 years now, just always astounds everybody with some new wonderful organ piece that he puts together. And it just always brings down the house. It's just fantastic. Well, during the years, he would play that, and then every now and then he would bring in other musicians to play with him. Sesame Street played with him, and then a little blues band, and then the percussionists, and then some other, he brings in other musicians to play with him on these feature pieces. Well, back around there sometime, I was talking to Mac, and I said, "Hey, Mac, Rick always does these big organ things and sometimes uses other people, and here we are. We've been here a few years now. Everybody knows who we are, and Rick, would it ever make sense for Rick to..." I didn't dare talk to Rick personally. I did this sideways. Rick would have been fine. He's one of the most charming, gracious men I've ever known in my life. But I thought, let's start one. So I suggest the idea to Rick of, hey, well, bless his heart, I suggested to Mac. Bless his heart, he suggested to Rick, said, "Rick, hey, would you ever consider using our Herald Trumpets in one of your pieces?" And Rick went, "Oh, that'd be interesting." So in about June of 2023, Rick Elliott reached out to me. "Hey, Brad, Max said this and da-da-da, and would you guys be willing if I put something together to do with the Herald Trumpets for my big organ piece?" And I said, "Heck, yeah." No, I didn't say those words. I said, "Yes, sir, absolutely. We would love that." And he said, "Okay." And we talked, and he asked some questions. I asked, anyway, we figured it out. So he wrote this incredible arrangement of "Bring a torch, Jeanette Bell, da da da."
You don't have a recording?
I don't have a recording of it. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
I know, I should. And the set, because of what they were doing, the set included this little castle off to the side. And they had the organ at the foot of the castle. And
Was that
so
the
they...
Dickens year?
Huh?
The Dickens story? Here?
This was in
It's
the
2 years
summertime.
ago.
Yeah,
Is this Christmas or?
Yeah, this is
It looks like the
Christmas.
Dickens
This
set.
is Christmas. Was it the Dickens that year?
Maybe.
It may have been.
I just remember seeing,
Or was it the Victor Hugo? No, it might have been the Dickens.
The
Anyway.
church has a recording of it though, right?
Oh yeah,
You can
the
go online.
DVDs are out there. Yeah, you can buy
You
a
just don't have
DVD.
one.
Yeah, and so with that castle, the organ, they said, "Yeah, let's do this." So they put the Herald Trumpets, staged them on that little castle with him, and so we got to play with him in this big organ piece that he did, and it was just spectacular. Again, it was just a dream come true. I just pinched myself. How's this happening? And it led to another dream come true that in our Saturday afternoon taping session. Now keep in mind the audience is empty. There's nobody in the building. It's just us performing. We're on the stage, and we spend the whole afternoon taping every single number and da-da-da-da-da. Well, for Rick's thing with the Herald Trumpets, Mac was going to finish the previous piece, and then he was just going to start it, and then the organ and trumpets could carry it from there. Mac was just going to start it. He wasn't on camera or anything. He was just going to give them 1, 2, go, and then would leave, and they just finish it. Fine. Well, that afternoon, Mac came to me and said, "Brad, when we get to the point in the taping session where we're going to tape the Rick and the Herald Trumpets, I have to be gone. Will you just step to the podium and get it started?" Sure. So the orchestra's at the choir. As I stepped to the podium, I kind of said to the orchestra, "Okay, he asked me to do this. I'm not presupposing I was asked to do this." Yeah, sure. So, and the choir photographer, bless his heart, he took a couple pictures of that happening. And so there I am standing on the podium and just directing this little organ and Herald Trumpet number. And again, for me personally, it's like, yeah, this will never happen again. And fortunately, this photographer captured a picture that I thought, okay. And so that was this little cool, unexpected little dream thing of conducting from the podium. Now, again, it was in nobody in the audience. It was an empty hall taping session, but still, it was pretty cool. So that was 2023, very, very cool year. 2024, again, we played Easter with the Tabernacle Choir. And here's our group that year. If you count real quickly, you only see 7 trumpets. And normally I have 8. That year, for whatever reason, everybody was gone. And that was the best I could do, was to find 7 players. But it worked, and we did just fine. Everything went. That was for Easter. It's not as taped as Christmas is. Okay, now, last year, Christmas, here we are with our new uniforms, playing with the choir at Christmas last year.
Did they not do Easter in 24?
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, that was it. Oh,
this
okay.
is
Gotcha.
Easter. Last year we did Easter and Christmas. Yeah, it's hard to keep. I can't even keep track of what we did. Now, this year, 2025, it's been busy already. Early in the year, we played with the Lyceum Symphony Orchestra. It's one of the preeminent youth orchestras in the state, in the country.
It's excellent. It's amazing.
So, are you aware of the Lyceum Orchestra? Anyway, they played in the Tabernacle, and they needed some extra brass, and they were aware of us, and I said, sure.
Is that Easter or?
No, it was just a special concert in March.
Oh, okay.
April, March. And I'm on the left end over there, playing with them. Then in May, the International Trumpet Guild, which holds a yearly conference any place in the world, lo and behold, in 2025, they're holding their international conference in Salt Lake City, up at the University of Utah, at Libby Gardner Hall. So boy, this is a huge, long story, but we were able to do a short performance for the International Trumpet Guild up at Libby Gardner Hall, and that was phenomenal. We absolutely love that gorgeous organ and so forth.
And you played in that one?
This one I was directing.
Oh, okay.
This one I was directing.
Do they let you keep your trumpets at home so you can practice? I mean, they're
Yeah.
they belong to the.
If my trumpet players, Mac has just turned it over to me. Brad, you're in charge of the trumpets. Do with them as you will. Don't lose them, but you know.
So everyone takes them home?
If they ask me really nicely, then no, I will allow my members to take their heralds home and practice with them.
Do you store them?
Huh?
Do you store them when they
So
don't?
I have space so that I can store them. The choir has also provided me some storage space up at the Tabernacle.
Oh.
So if we're going to go 6 months without using them, I'll just take them and put them up in the Tabernacle, and then come back and get them, and then in between I'll store them in my house. See, every time we play, it's different players. Not every player, but I'm swapping out players on almost every performance. So it's hard to let them keep their horn all the time because they may not play next time. So anyway, but yes, I allow them to take them home as that makes sense. This year in June.
Where is the Liberty concert hall? I don't know.
Libby Gardner Hall. Okay, up at the University of Utah, there's on the big on the circle, what do they call it? The circle up there, administration building. Down at the end of it is the music building. 15, 20 years ago, they did a massive remodeling of that music building and put into it this Libby Gardner Concert Hall. Gorgeous hall. Beautiful, beautiful hall.
So was it a huge audience, obviously?
It only seats maybe 800. It's not gigantic. It's not a huge... Actually, that's just the right size for recitals, for small concerts. 700, 800, 900 seats is plenty. And so it's got about that, 700, 800 seats, something like that. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous hall. Libby Gardner Hall at the music building at the University of Utah. Then in July, what happened is Governor Cox, on the steps of the Capitol, he wanted to do a special announcement about Utah 250, our efforts of Utah celebrating the 250th for a year, right? You know what I'm talking about? 250 next year is 250 for the United States, right?
Yes.
And so Governor Cox wanted to say, hey, from now till then, Utah's going to celebrate. And he brought in, Kurt Bester was there with music and a big choir and some musicians, and the Herald Trumpeters, we were brought in to help play for that event. And so that was on this up at the state capitol. And then just 3 days later, basically the same group, 3 days later, played in the Stadium of Fire.
Oh.
And again, this is a distant shot, but we're on the stage there with our Herald Trumpets playing in the Stadium of Fire. And there's huge stories behind every one of these pictures. There's giant stories. But, so that brings us up to the current here right now. And so we played State of Fire. Now we did play at the Renaissance Fair just a month or so ago. And then coming up in December, we have 2 concerts. We're gonna do a Riverton community concert and Tab Choir the next day. So we still have 2 more events to finish out the year. So it's been and will be a very busy year this year for GABRIEL and for the Herald Trumpets and all that kind of stuff.
When and where in Riverton?
So this Monday, December 8th, Riverton, apparently there's a guy named Kim Ramash. He's been the director. Started out years ago as a stake event, got bigger, and finally Riverton said, let's make this a community Christmas event. So they moved it a few years ago into Riverton High School. They fill it 1,400 people, standing room only. And they put on just a great big Christmas concert. And this year, Kim, who I know, he reached out to me saying, Brad, I'd love to feature GABRIEL in our concert. And I said, heck yeah. And so we've been making plans. And so December 8th, Monday night at Riverton High School, I think it's free, open to the public. And it will be a great big event. Yeah, GABRIEL's gonna play on 11 numbers that night.
So you're playing in our sacrament meeting.
No, that's different.
I know.
That's not GABRIEL.
Yeah, but is that just you, or is there going to be
me and 2 of my buddies?
Okay, all right.
This Mark Chamberlain I keep referring to. What Colette's referring to is in November, me and 2 other trumpet players are going to come in and we're going to play in the sacrament meeting, but we're going to be playing on our flugelhorns, which I didn't bring. Flugelhorns are kind of bigger, mellow horn. We're going to play This Is the Christ, the Holy God. We're going to play that piece in sacrament meeting. Okay, I got to tell a story though. Sorry. What happened earlier this year? These stories are all too long. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, we brass players, we were playing in church, sacrament meetings, Sunday school, all the time, every other week. And it was always appropriate. We were playing beautiful, religious, all these music, And then, that was just really common. And other instruments, And then somewhere around 1980, for reasons I'm not entirely sure, the church policy slammed the door. Didn't just close the door. They slammed the door on brass in church. No brass instruments in worship services. Oh, okay. Anyway, I won't get into why.
We have a trumpet in our next Sundays. We got it approved.
So what happened is, as long as that one general authority was alive, that was the policy. And a number of years ago, that door just barely cracked open. The handbook said, well, maybe. And most bishops and stake presidents were not brave enough to do that. And then about 2-3 years ago, the handbook opened the door a little bit more and said, well, as long as it's appropriate, and suddenly you started this real tentative thing about brass in church again. Well, just this year, it was early this year, May, we had stake conference, and our stake president came to our stake music director, a wonderful lady, and said to her, hey, I would like to have some brass in the music for stake conference. What? What's going on? And so she knew I played trumpet, so she came to me and said, hey, Brad, he wants some brass. Oh. So we talked it all over, and what we finally ended up, we had a really good stake choir, and in the Sunday session, they were going to sing Mac Wilberg's arrangement of Redeemer of Israel. Redeemer of Israel. And that arrangement actually has brass parts written. I said, there we go. And so I said, but let's not overdo this. Instead of a big 10-piece brass thing, let's just get 3 trumpets. And that's plenty. So we have a big choir. We've got the organ, we've got the piano, we've got 3 trumpets. And it turned out spectacular, don't you think?
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there. Okay, sorry, but I didn't mean to put you on
No,
spot.
that's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Well, the only reason I'll state it that strongly is afterwards I had so many people coming up to me saying, that was great, that was wonderful. I never knew it could sound that good. I mean, it was a little bit of a revelation for a lot of people that brass can be used in such a way as to be appropriate for a worship service. Most people had never heard that before in LDS services.
I've done lots of music callings, but with the kids, I always wanted to teach them what reverence is. Doesn't mean to sit down and shut up.
No.
Think of Paul Revere and reverence and revering and being patriotic and that he was blowing his horn basically to save this country. And I say we need to discern when it's time to do that type of reverence and revering. Rather, and reverence, I love the song that it's more than quietly sitting,
Right.
it's thinking of Father. But it also means to be at our 100% voice when we are in the truth, and trumpets herald in the times that look at the name of our president.
Thank you. This is such a good point, and then I'll be right there. This is such a good point. Reverence is an attitude of feeling an approach to God. It's not a decibel level. Now, we tend to equate reverence with, yes, fine, we can be reverent when we're quiet. But to me, some of the most powerful reverential moments I've had is with the Tabernacle Choir singing as loud as we can, Thou Gracious God, or the Christmas songs, and I think, okay, here's heaven, and so forth. And so, it's not the decibel level, it's the quality of what you bring to it. Now, fortunately, brass is slowly. And so, Colette, our ward music director, talked to the bishopric, hey, how would you feel about a little brass number in the second meeting? Yeah, that'd be great. So again, I want to approach it gently. We're just going to have 3 of us trumpet players on our quiet flugelhorns playing a beautiful, This is the Christ, beautiful hymn. And so we're going to do that late November in our ward, I think.
Well, the Brunson brothers always played in church, and Nathan Hoffines, I grew up with him, and Brian, and they
That's right, Louis Brunson is coming next week.
Other churches, the other Christian evangelical church, they've had it all along. I mean, they have rock bands in their churches.
We finally got handbells.
Yeah.
I love going to those
So
concerts before.
we are the extreme conservative end of that spectrum, which I respect. I love the brethren and I sustain them. I would never fight them on it. But we are on the very conservative end of that, but it's slowly, carefully. Now, so you had a question.
I have a request. Would you pick your trumpet up?
He is going to.
Play
Aren't you going to play this something?
Oh, I can.
Spiritual for us today.
Sure. In a minute I will.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I'm almost done, by the way. I've got like one
It's
slide
only
left.
11, so.
Okay. So we'll, sure. We'll play a tune or two for you. Thank you. Anyway, so this year, been very busy. We still have some things going on. And so I'm coming to the end of it and saying, the remarkable thing is how unexpected this was. Until that day in 2017, I could not even imagine our Gabriel theme taking this turn. And so Mac Wilberg had ideas. He bumped into us. The flint and the steel came together and the spark was struck, and here we've been doing it all these years. And I think as long as Mac is directing the choir, I think we'll be involved. The day will come that he'll retire, and then I don't know what Ryan Murphy will do. We'll see. If he still wants us playing, great. But anyway, it's been an extraordinary journey, and we'll just enjoy it for as long as we can. So that's kind of my presentation.
Yay!
It's just very much a personal interest story, and thanks for your kind patience.
That's fascinating.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you ever hear,
I grew up with David Warner as well.
Oh, I know David.
And yeah, he's done a phenomenal job. But I wanted to know, I think I heard it from him that the choir was just kind of losing, they're the longest CBS, the longest running live show in the world. And they came to a point where they just were it just wasn't going anywhere. And I heard this story that when Mac Wilberg came on, Mike used to be in the men's choir at BYU, And so I kind of knew some of the backstories going on there. But there's certain things that happened that were just really inspired when they started inviting some of these big stars to come. And Mac would do the arranging, and he got all that practice at BYU. The story's told that these arrangements started to go out because these stars would say, well, I want this for my choir concert, or, you know, for my own album. So the Christmas concert became this star-studded thing where they had this spiritual experience, changed their lives. They would use these in their own personal, you know, it kind of just lifted their whole experience with Christmas music, and then it started to snowball from there. But that one thing changed everything. And so at the international choir conferences, internationally, everybody would come. And what had happened over those years with that happening, when they gave the awards, there was, I think Craig Jessup got some awards there, and people just gave him a standing O. But when Mac Wilberg got the award, they stood on their chairs. Because, I mean, I've heard high schools all over the country using Mac Wilberg's, you know, arrangements. And his arranging in the choir world became huge in all the high schools, choir, you know, college choirs. And that was just really touching to me.
I've got a long, windy response to that. Thank you. Well, before I do, is there any song in particular you're interested in? That's just a little quiet one.
Beautiful.
Just for the heck of it. I turn away because if I do this,
Yeah, do it.
you want it full board?
Yeah, go.
Did you hear that okay? If I may, let me give a little bit of my windy response. I'll try to keep it short to Nancy's wonderful comment. So, I was in the choir in 2000, in the year 2000. In my mind, that was a perfect time to come into the choir. Before that, Jerry Otley had been the choir director for 25 years. Phenomenal. He raised the choir from here to here to here to here. He did amazing things for 25 years. He was in the Tabernacle. They went on tours, dozens of recordings. He did massive things to pull the choir up several levels during his 25 years. He brought in as his assistant Craig Jessup. When Jerry Otley retired in 1998, 99, Craig Jessup became the director. 1999. Craig Jessup became the director. Craig wanted Mac Wilberg for his assistant. Mac was at BYU leading the men's choir and other things. And initially he said, no, thank you. I'm fine at BYU. And he was already famous. He had already written dozens of these arrangements that were published throughout the country, throughout the world. Mac Wilberg was already this musical force in the choir world and so forth. Craig had to twist his arm. I think he finally had to get a general authority involved to say, Brother Wilberg, we would really like for you to come in. And so Mac Wilberg finally went, okay, fine. So he came up, and so when I joined the choir in 2000, I auditioned for Craig Jessup and Mac Wilberg. By the way, that audition process, that's a whole nother story. you end up, you do a tape submission, then you do a written test.
Yes.
And then you go do an in-person audition. It's only 10 minutes long. It's the most frightening 10 minutes of your life to sing for Craig Jessup and Mac Wilberg. And somehow, miraculously, I got through that and got into the choir. So as I came in, they were still pretty new. Craig had been the assistant for a number of years, but as the director, he was fairly new. Mac Wilberg was there. And the other huge thing that happened is the conference center was just opening. Remember, the very first general conference was April of 2000. It was dedicated October of 2000. And then 2000 was the very first Christmas concert in the conference center, and Craig Jessup was in charge. And Craig is a showman. He had directed he'd been in the military and put on shows. Craig was a showman. And during those next 10 years, 2000 till 2008 is when Craig left. For those 8 years, Craig was just masterminding these massive productions. His motto was, anything worth producing is worth overproducing. And his wife kept asking him, this is wonderful, honey. When are we going to have the dancing elephants? You know, because Craig Jessup's impulse was to just massively produce, and it showed. These productions in the conference center just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, and underlying the whole thing was the music of Mac Wilberg. Mac Wilberg continued to produce masterful pieces. Craig was his biggest champion, and so the choir, a third or half of what we sang were Mac Wilberg arrangements. And so that just expanded Mac's exposure to the world. And Craig, these magnificent concerts and PBS and DVDs and millions of people watching and and all this kind of stuff. Mac, who already had a reputation in the choral world, it just went crazy. It magnified. Every high school, every college in the country was singing Mac Wilberg music. In fact, we heard the story that they went to one of these big conferences, you know, featuring Mac Wilberg music, and somewhere in there they mentioned he was the associate conductor of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and someone said, what? Mac Wilberg's the Mormon? He's a, what are you talking about? You know? And so his fame was gigantic already. Craig helped to amplify that tremendously. And those were miracle years. Those were just amazing, amazing. Jerry Otley brought the choir to here. Craig brought the choir to here. And in my opinion, Mac has continued to maintain and some increase, but in my view, the huge increases were Jerry Otley, Craig Jessup, and then Mac has done a phenomenal job maintaining and helping to spread and elevate and expand from there. So these are geniuses. The Lord put them in the right place at the right time. Craig left the choir in 2008, and Mac became the director, and he brought in Ryan Murphy as his assistant. They just continue to do miraculous things every year. Then the best thing they ever did in 2017 was bring in Herald Trumpeters. It just gets better and better, doesn't it?
How come Craig Jessup only stayed for 8 years?
Okay, we need to put this in context. He had been with the choir for 4 years prior to that as the assistant. So he'd really been with the choir for 14 years, 13, 14 years. 8 or 9 of those as the director. He left. I was there in the room. I was this far away from Craig when he announced surprise resignation. Mm-hmm. He came into the choir, pulled out a piece of paper. Right then I thought, okay, this isn't, and he started to read his resignation from the choir. Stunned. Women were crying. Men were like, what's going on? Everybody's completely stunned. It came out of nowhere. And he took the opportunity, he left. He went back to Utah State. He's had an incredible career at Utah State since then. He organized the American Festival Choir and Orchestra up in Logan. You know, he's still doing incredible things. And I cannot overstate what Craig Jessup brought to the Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra. Where he found it and where he left it are just 3 miles apart, and incredible progress that Craig Jessup did. I want to give all due credit to Mac too. Mac's phenomenal. In my humble opinion, the greatest change was during Craig Jessup's time. but I love Mac too and support him fully. That was a long, windy answer to the question. I'm sorry. Yes.
I just wondered, where was Mac before he came?
BYU.
Oh.
He was a teacher at BYU for years. He'd been leading the men's choir and other choirs down at BYU, and it was phenomenal. That's why he didn't want to leave. He was the elephant in the room in academia, BYU, and that arena. He was huge. So that's why he didn't want to leave it. They had it. Yes?
And don't you think sometimes people come with their gifts to show us all how to do it? And then they have to go somewhere else and show them all how to do it.
Absolutely.
Just share the love. Right?
Bloom where you're planted.
And Craig was one of those men. He had done the academia, he had taught school, he went into the military, had an incredible career in the military, came out with a tap choir, back to academia, and so I think he was one of those where...
Was he conducting when they did the Hershey's drop with the parachutes? Was he made that?
I don't think so. That was after my time.
That was
and Craig had already left. So I think I've been gone 16 years.
We've still got amazing.
I know.
So.
And that's what I'm saying, is Mac has carried on and done tremendous shows. And he brought in David Warner. Craig brought in David Warner. David Warner is a person you haven't heard of, who's kind of the engine behind a lot of these massive productions. He scripts it out, he writes it, he does the stories, he plots the whole thing and stage and this and that. And this David Warner is a brilliant man. He taught at BYU for a number of years, worked for the church. He's got his own production company.
He just came out with an amazing book about, he wrote that for his children.
So between Craig Jessup and then Mac Wilberg and then David Warner and of course a host of other people, but those three took what was being done, just elevated it to what we know today. And it's being beautifully maintained and going on and even expanded under Mac and David and now Ryan Murphy and others. Yeah.
Well, it keeps you, the Herald Trumpets get to keep you tied to the Tabernacle Choir since you had to quit when they called you as bishop. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is it's just so fun to still have that connection.
Yeah.
And I even have my little pass badge to get in the doors. So I must be official.
I think that they need to come out with a book of all the behind the scenes on the Motab choir and everything that goes with it, because there are so many miraculous, fantastic stories that the people don't know.
There are. It's amazing. Sometimes in these yearly Christmas DVDs, if you buy the DVD, they'll have special features and they'll have interviews and da-da-da. Every now and then they'll have a behind the scenes little thing as part of the special features. And so there have been a few little productions like that, but you're right, it's absolutely miraculous what's going on behind the millions of volunteer hours. Is hard. Now we as a church, that's what we do, right? We fulfill callings and we're all donating our time to the kingdom and to the cause. But that includes the choir and the orchestra. Nobody gets paid for it. I need to be careful. There's a handful of professional career people who run the thing. Fine. But the choir and the orchestra, trumpets, dancers, bells, nobody's getting paid. We go and put in horrendous hours just for the love of what we're doing and for serving our Heavenly Father. And count it, just like all of us and all of our callings, just count it an extraordinary blessing to even be in the arena and even be part of it.
That's amazing.
I know I've chewed up my time, but was there another question or two?
I was just going to say, during that time that you're talking about, I lived up in Washington State, and as a state music director, we would take our cues from what the church was doing at the handbook and like what we could and couldn't do. But I remember when the Sunday I heard Mac Wilberg's, he brought in drums with the men's choir, with the Tabernacle Choir, and they did a men's choir with African drums. And I just thought, it's just like, we are a worldwide church. I just like felt the spirit like, okay, the gathering's gonna start more, and it was just really a sacred experience.
One of our favorite concert numbers that he wrote many years ago was this thing called Bethlehem, based on African Christmas chant.
That was one of them.
And so they're up in the choir, we're swaying and playing, shouting and playing instruments and just making this big commotion. It's one of the funnest numbers we ever did.
And then Alex Boyer.
Yeah,
it was
Alex
fun.
Boyer, many a time. Yeah, the choir, we are an international church. I love it. The last couple of years they've been bringing in people from internationally to sing with the choir. Yay. I just wish they'd put a badge on them so we know who they are. But I think that's an incredible outreach. And the choirs, they're doing smaller tours now, targeted. They'll go out to the Philippines for 4 days, Peru for 4 days, somewhere else for 4 or 5 days. And they just do these short, targeted tours now instead of the big 3-week, 8-country things they used to do. But yeah, it's a magnificent organization. And
You got to do that though, didn't you?
so I was in the 9/11 era, and President Hinckley was very skittish about a great big American church target being international. I never got to do an international tour. During my time, we just did domestic tours. I went up to the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest, I went on some of these tours with the choir. My time, it was just domestic tours, but later they got back to doing international.
After you were gone.
After I was gone.
Oh, of course.
That's the only thing I wish I could have done was an international tour, but that's a small concern. But anyway, guys, thanks so much.
Thank
I love
you.
Sharon's
Oh, that was
stories.
wonderful.